Hello and good evening to you guys. This is the first video out of the four videos in this series where I basically explain my model and how I see things on a very basic level. A lot of you guys have been asking for it these couple of weeks, especially when I was gone for some time. So I'm kind of excited to get this over with. Um, I'm also very thankful to you guys who have been reaching out to me, letting me into your minds and your progress. That means a lot to me. That's one of the sole reasons why I want to do this. I want to see others basically succeed, and there's a very fulfilling feeling seeing others start to see things and progress based on something you've somewhat flipped or created or how you see things. It's um, you're basically helping others in how you think, and that is very pleasing to me. So, um, I would just like to say thank you to you guys who have been um, sticking through it, especially when I was gone as well. You keep going at it, you'll 100% succeed in it. And on that part, I'm not gonna say that you're gonna 100% succeed with it, but I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm not a financial advisor and that I'm doing this simply for educational purposes only. I think it's fun, but I'm not a professional. You should seek professional help if you are risking money in the markets. It's not guaranteed, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Everything is on the screen right now. Have at it, read it, you do whatever. Now, this system is based on the SBS system. The SBS system, and I've said this probably 100,000 times already, is coming from Stoic, and I'm assuming that that model and baseline information is coming from Dave, right? In what I've understood, and when I've been talking to or seeing Stoic doing his things. Um, so I highly advise you, and I'll put his link in the description to watch the basic foundational part of SBS because this is where I basically created the shit show model out of. Okay, it's important that you get the baseline information, and I'm staying true to myself, saying, you know, this is not purely my information. It's coming from Stoic, Stoic TA on Twitter and YouTube. There you go. And if Stoic is listening, I really appreciate you. You're amazing. You made me profitable, and I'm really thankful for it. This is basically the SBS, right? Now, I want also to be very open and say that I didn't understand anything of the SBS system really. I saw SBS levels to all directions at all times, right? And that's also how V was introduced to me. I was literally reaching out to him and talking to him about the SBS system, where he helped me to understand it. Yet, the only problem with this is that it really didn't fit me that technically. Because how I see the market, I see it as a huge puzzle. I see it as a puzzle, and I like to see it in the way of creating a story behind it, right? Because I'm really good at matching charts with a story or a story with charts. See, I like to understand or get in sync with the market and the way of saying, okay, who is at this level? Who is over here? Who is up there? Who is down there? Who wants to get here? Who wants to reach this point? And suddenly you're sort of creating this red line through the market. And suddenly, when you do that enough, it just randomly feels like you're tapping into something. And it's almost like you start to see the market from this imaginary perspective because you're reading from a book. And if you're reading from a book, the more you know what is written in that book or what is happening currently, right? What has happened, what is happening currently, you can almost sort of guess what is going to happen next. Basically, when we're watching the market, it's like watching a really terrible Christmas movie, right? You see a good start, and then there's like a storm taking place, some crazy things happening, and everything is going sideways, right? But you already know that there's gonna end up with people sitting around the Christmas tree celebrating, opening up Christmas gifts, eating good food, and then there's a camera zooming out from the window, and it's like white snow and a snowman there. You already know the ending, right? So that's me basically saying that is what I do in the markets as well. And now the SBS system didn't specifically hit that point for me. So what I tried to do was create personality types around the different numbers. See, number one has one personality, number two has another personality, and three and four and five, right? It's the same thing, but now they're sort of starting to become persons that are expressing themselves in different ways and manners, right? And as soon as I did that, my mind kind of got crazy, right? I went from understanding the SBS foundational part into starting to see the shit show model in a matter of 11 days, where I basically was trading everything back and forth all over the place, right? Now, I'm not saying you need that, but that's another point, but whatever. But I basically created personality types around these numbers because what Stoic was saying was that, okay, well, this happens, and 4 and 5 usually wants to run number 3, and this does this, and this that's this, right? So I started to create some sort of pattern in my head, but more of a pattern through order flow, right? And what I realized was that there's not actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. But what I actually discovered was that through different time frames, right? They fit together. Where all the number ones are also number threes. Number one on a higher time frame is a number three on the lower time frame. And number two on a higher time frame is a 4 and 5 on the lower time frame. So if you add all these together, you can almost expect that you see this number 4 and 5 down here. That means that this in here, this little box that I'm doing with my mouse here, that's one sequence. That's a one whole sequence where there's potentially then a number 2 over here and a number 1 over here, which creates the 4 and 5 to go higher. But it's how they fit together, right? How does these numbers fit together? You start to see the pattern. And what kind of personalities do they have, right? And this is basically how it all became something. It started to become something in my head, and I started to see that, wait a second, they all fit together, right? So this is what I was saying before when I was drawing this box or whatever around it. And as you can see, over here would be a number 1. The red line is the 15-second chart. Red line is the 15-second chart, right? Black line here is the 1 minute. 1 minute chart, okay? What does this mean? It means that if this would be a number 1, then this would be a number 2. Why is this a number 2? Because it runs number 1. So that means that this is a 3 to run what? Number 2, which is the shit show level. Number 2, running it down here, creating the 4 and 5 to head back up higher. But on the higher time frame, you instead see a 1 to the 2 to the 3 to potentially 4 and 5 to run potentially higher, right? That's another sequence. So do you see how these overlap? Right in here, it overlaps where there's a very high likelihood on the 1 minute time frame that the number 2 is going to take out number 1, right? Seen it through SBS. But if you add on that this is a 4 and 5 on the lower time frame, it's going to run higher as well. Suddenly you have a huge potential down here to reach up higher. But then down here, in this box that I'm drawing down here, is a whole other, 1 second chart. You'll find potential setups in here, or 5 second charts. You will find the same scenario where you would have a 1 here and a 2 here to a 3 here to a 4 and 5 here to head back up higher. So what does this mean? Practicality, it means that every 1 is also number 3. Every 2 is also number 4 and 5. You can call it whatever, but that's the fact, and that's what I've been seeing. That's how it all started. This would technically mean, right? And if you understand, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Now, I want to say this as well. All of these pictures that you're seeing, you might be like, oh wait, I've seen this picture before, right? Well, it's because it's what you already have been given through Twitter, right? I've already given you this on Twitter. You've just been lazy, not reading through it. So now it's me basically telling you in words, in a video format, how it's done, right? So all of this is already available on Twitter. So after this, I want you to head over there and just go through it again. You'll see it's the same charts, right? Anyways, this means that if every 2 is a 4 and 5, that must mean that every 1 is also a 3. So what does happen in practicality? Well, it just is a huge, it just gets bigger and bigger, right? The range just increases and increases and increases. It has to stop somewhere, right? It just can't go on forever, right? This is not what the market looks like. So what I'm getting from this is basically saying that this is a potential expansion rate. Every 2 runs up higher to take the high out. Every 4 and 5 runs up to take 3 out. But at some point, it's got to stop, right? It's got to shift. It's got to continue higher. It's got to do this. It's got to do that. Well, it all starts with the number 1. Okay, so the focus on this video is to let you know how the number 1 works. That's what I only want you to focus on, because a lot of you guys that are messaging me in my DMs, right, are saying this and that and this and that and this up, down, here, left and right. Stop. Hold on now. The idea for you is to start with one number, go in order, right? The easiest number out of all of these, right, is the number 1. It's literally a high. That's it. But it's how it's interconnected with the number 2, right? This is the only thing I want you to look at in the beginning. This is literally the only thing I want you to be looking at in the beginning. If you add on the 4 and 5, and this can bounce here, and this can go up here, and this can do this, and this can do that, I don't care, okay? I want you to focus on this and this solely, right? Number 1 only at this point. And don't you dare go jump into the number 2 and number 3 and how they're acting and how they're moving together and how the 4 and 5 is bouncing through the 1. No, you're not there yet. And you have to accept that. Take it one step at a time and listen to what I'm saying, and you'll figure out what I am seeing. How I see the market might not work for you. And to be honest, I couldn't give a shit if it doesn't work for you. But for the human being that really wants to make this work, you can make it work if you listen to what I'm saying. It's very simple, right? Number 1 is a high. Whenever we have a push down like this, under a low, then there is a number 1 up here, potentially created. I'm saying potentially created because number 2's responsibility and personality is to kill that number 1. If it's not able to do that, if number 2 is not able to reach into number 1, it is not a number 1. If number 2, let's say, would go up here, you can see where my mouse is at, and then it starts to go lower. It's simply not a number 2 or a 1. So in order for you to figure out where the number 1 is, you had to figure out where the number 2 is and what it is doing. You will never know if there is a number 1 if number 2 has not done its job. Number 1's job is to push the market down here. If that happens, then number 2 potentially target is going to target the number 1 on the upside. Okay? That's the only thing you have to understand for now, right? And the whole idea behind this is because what I've been seeing and what I did not understand in Dave's mentorship, right, or Dave's educational videos, that is also free, and I highly advise you, it's even on my channel as a playlist to go watch them, right, because it's baseline amazing free information, absolutely amazing free information. But I used to get smoked up here. I was looking for the flip. It went down here. I took my short here, but I got stopped out and then it moved lower. And I got shit on every single time. Well, not every single time technically, but a majority of the time because I just didn't read it correctly. I'm having a drink, sorry. Whenever the number 2 reaches into number 1, number 2 is now created. And that's the only thing you have to know for now, right? But if we add this, and let's say this entire thing that we're seeing right in front of us right now is the 15-second time frame. The 1 minute time frame would look like this. It goes from here, it moves up to here, and it moves down to here, and it moves higher. Okay? That's it. Nothing else. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there on the 1 minute for you to find. But on the lower time frame, it is. It is something. It's a sequence playing out. And if you really take a look at it, didn't I just say that every 1 and number 2 has also like a brotherly paired up number? Number 2 is also 4 and 5, and number 1 is also a 3, right? What happens if we type out 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, and 4 and 5 here? Well, it's a smaller time frame sequence inside a smaller time frame sequence, inside a higher potentially time frame sequence that might be playing out. I can already feel that you're starting to really understand what is happening. Meaning, the lower time frames you go, there's always a sequence playing out. You're just not seeing it yet. Yep. So this is number 1 in my way of seeing the market. It's a 3 according to Stoic, right? Because we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go higher. But I see it as a 1 to the 2. Why am I seeing that? And this is apparently the biggest problem for all of y'all, right? Because you simply can't understand the fact that I am seeing the higher time frame, the 1 minute, I'm seeing that sequence playing out on the lower time frame because it's the same freaking number. There's only two pairs that you have to look at. It's the 2, which is a 4 and 5, and there's a 1, which is a 3. That's it. So I'll give you a hint because the next video is going to be about the number 2. The number 2, I would say, is the strongest POI that I have personally ever seen. I've seen it, a bunch of you people have seen it on in my DMs as well, sending me that the levels are completely nuts and completely crazy, which is, yeah, no shit, right? I'm seeing the same thing. I'm just not as amazed anymore. But every time the number 2 reaches up into the number 1, it automatically becomes a super high interest point for the market to kill. Maybe not now, maybe not later. I don't know when it's going to happen. Well, there is a way to understand it, but that will come way later. But what I want you to understand is the SS levels, the shit show levels, is the number 2 being able to breach the number 1. Okay? And number 2 is also the 4 and 5 according to Stoic, right? And whenever that happens, it becomes a high important area that is super, super highly accurate when you're trading this. Because what is important here is not that it's being taken, but in matter of fact, it's about it running towards something. And if this is left out, not being taken after the 2 runs the 1 up here, if it's not going down to take it immediately and it just pumps up, right? What happens? Well, that just means that you'll know exactly where we're gonna go to further on. And you've seen it countless of times through my Twitter. You can just scroll through it. You'll see so many times where I have my shit show levels marked out and it hits them perfectly and shoots up the other way, right? I did that just this Friday or this Thursday as well. This Thursday, I was doing it live right in front of all of you. So it works the same thing now as it did back in September, back in, March last year. It works the same in the same way, right? And this is just what I explained. By the way, you can now understand that I'm not going by script. I'm just being hyped up about what I see. But what I'm trying to say to you is that whenever this level runs the number 1, this is the shit show. The reason why I call it the shit show level is because there's a bunch of shit going on at that very level later on. The market is going down to it, it's going back up to it, killing it, going back down below it, going back up. It's just a huge shit show. It's just craziness going around at that very specific level. And if you can find those levels, sheesh, you're good to go. Because you now understand how to capitalize on that very level, right? So I want you to focus on the number 1. Just find a high. Just find that starting point. And you're going to say like, "Oh, well that is just a waste of time. That's going to take not enough time whatsoever." Well, you know, if you can't even find number 1, I've seen you guys not even be able to note out the specific high that starts off the sequence. And I also know that a bunch of you guys are now thinking, shit, I should have listened back when he talked about what the number 1's job was. Yeah, go back in this video. Because the personality of number 1 is important for you to understand what is happening next, and what is happening next, and what is happening next, and what is happening next. Everything fits together. Everything fits together. And I've been sitting with some of you in private through Discord talking to you because you literally begged on your knees for some help. So I talked to you about it. And I also showed a bunch of you guys how it's done live in the market. And what I usually see with a lot of you is that you have a problem with understanding that I'm watching many time frames in one time frame. And it's not even that hard because you just note out the different numbers and that's it. That's it. But if you rush the progress here now, oh well, I understand where the number 1 is already, so I can just jump into number 2. You are the loser. You're going to lose. But the person that is putting out every single possible start of a sequence, that person will get it immediately. They will start to understand it real quick. But it takes time, and you have to accept that fact. And the more you fight that it takes time, the more time it will take. You'll have to start over. Very, very simple. And I learned it the hard way before I became profitable as well. I wanted to rush things. I was in a desperate situation, right? I needed cash, and that was quick. But when I sat down and started to study the crap out of the markets, for real this time, and I didn't, if somebody did, 100 chart examples, I did at least 1,000. At least, minimum. That made me go 10 times faster. But rushing the progress will just break you apart. You will not know anything, right? That's the mental coming in there. The real important shit, right? This is some chart examples just showing you. This is, as you can see, from September 2024. It was like half a year ago. Well, don't you have any uh, you know, new charts from now? Well, just go look at this Friday. Go look at this Thursday, just scroll through my Twitter and you'll see it all over. I want to show you that it worked September as it works right now. Okay? This is the 15-second chart. What would I note out? Is this a number 1? No. Is this a number 1? No. Is this a number 1? No. It's not. This, on the other hand, is a number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because it has a purpose. It is doing something, right? It's doing what it's supposed to do. Then, therefore, bang, that's the number 1. I note out number 1 down here. It rushes up. Why does this become a number 1? Well, we run this high here. Either this high or this high. I don't give a shit. It runs something, right? Runs something. Now we know that this is a potential what? Number 2. Yes. Number 2 runs to the downside. When it does that and successfully does that, what does this high become? It becomes the shit show level. The strongest POI I have personally ever seen. Not some time-based bullshit ass, I was stuck in that ICT era, by the way, so that's why I'm just 2 years down the drain, sucked ass. That's why I'm so, I hate time-based market. But this high is now the shit show level. Guess why I'm taking a long? I'm taking the long to run what? That shit show level. And it's going up here. And apparently I'm super confident to take it what? To the downside. Into what? Well, that will be a further on lecture into the number 1 that decides if we're bullish or bearish. I'm not saying that you have to take the trades completely, like, out of the blue and take it all the way to a certain point. Not saying that. I'm not saying you have to take it all the way to this level, to the shit show level, otherwise you're screwed. No. Take off your trade halfway. I don't care. Look at this RR. What is this? It's like a 10R, whatever. This is like a 3 or like 2.5R. This is like 2.5R. I was out early because I didn't like it. Why? I didn't know if this is going to get ran or not, right? But since it didn't get ran, there's a what? A new sequence. 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 and 5. But we run this SS level right here, right? Guess where we're going as well. Take that eye out and then go lower. And as you can see, it didn't run this high. It went for this high. Why? Because that's the shit show level that I'm talking about. That's why it's super strong. You know where we will bounce. You will understand where the market is going to flip to the opposing side. You just know because you have specific levels played out. You know when it will start to consolidate. You know when it's going to stop. You know when it's going to rush higher or lower. It happens all the time. Look at this. All the time, right in front of your eyes. And this is what it's so called a consolidation. A bigger consolidation, by the way. It's just going sideways. Oh, it's a horrible market today, guys. We're just going sideways in a huge, consolidation back and forth. No, you can trade the consolidation. I love the consolidation because it works the same way. I'll fill up my orders back and forth. I know where we're going. And you can do that as well, And this, as you can see here, you have red sort of squares or rectangles or whatever you call it. These specific levels or these boxes is a specific sequence playing out, right? The sequence meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many trades do you have in that? 1 to the downside. Now that's not a good trade to take, but 2 will run number 1. That's one trade. 3 will run number 2. That's 2 trades. 4 and 5 will potentially run number 3 or bounce on the 1 or go back lower later on. That's potentially 3 trades in every single sequence playing out right in front of you. You're seeing 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, right? That's 18 trades and that's 21 trades. And while you're inside the bigger sequence, you will find lower time frame sequence playing out. If you can watch this, one that runs higher, that's the SS, running down lower, running back up to shoot back down lower. See that? And if you look at the bigger time frame, right? I'm pretty sure this went down here later on, but if you take a look at what is happening right here as well, we have the push down to the push up, right? Put the push down. This is number 2. 2 that runs lower. That's number 3 that ran number 1. We bounce up higher. What does this high do? See this? This is the number 1 low. Why? Because we broke that high here on the bigger scale. Look where it bounces. Do you think this number 4 and 5 is random? 2 is here, 1 is here, 3 is here, 4 and 5 is here on the bigger time frame, moved back down, bounce on the very tick of that number 1. Because we have a bunch of sequences playing out here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sequences that I can see. But we have one huge sequence as well. Over one entire day. So as you can see, still works the same thing. Same thing works now as it did back then. You've seen it through my Twitter, seen it all over. But I want you to focus, right, on number 1. Mark that out. Mark that out. Find out when that first one is starting to do its thing. When that happens, just look at what is happening next. Now I'm saying that there's 4 videos in this, right? The video number 2 is, I would say, the most important video of all of the videos for you to understand. And it's coming right up. Okay? It's coming very soon. But I want to give you also a bit of time just to think and just note out that number 1. Where does this sequence start to play out? Like it almost like shows you immediately, bang, here it is. It's starting to play out. a sequence is about to play out. Because if you can find that number one, you'll find number two. If you find number two, you will know what number two is doing. Because why? Because you understand the personalization behind every number. Number two runs number one. Number three runs number two, potentially. So we'll go over that in video 3. It's coming right up. But for now, I want you to understand, where does this number one play out? What is the specific thing that the number one wants to do? So I want you to go backtest that, right? And when I'm saying backtest, I'm not saying 10 scenarios. I'm saying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. You shouldn't be able to sleep at night. And I see so much bullshit on Twitter and social media. A bunch of people just saying, I'm dedicated, I'm dedicated. You're not dedicated. I see you reposting bullshit on your Twitter. At some point, it has to stop. When you say, you know what? I'm so sick and tired of this. I'm not moving at all. I'm just standing still because I'm doing dumb mistakes all the time. It's a matter of time. You have to decide. I can't do that for you. Stoic and Dave cannot do that for you. And I wish that this very thing is I just, you don't know how much money it's worth somebody telling you this. Not the model itself. The model can just throw itself out the window. But telling you that you have to start, man up. Nobody's going to do this for you. Do you think Stoic succeeded with doing absolutely nothing? No. He's moving all the time. We're moving. All of us traders are moving. You have to shift your mindset. Mindset is very, very important. I would say the more important than any shit show level, any market structure shift, any order block, any breaker block, and any unicorn model. I don't care. Everything works. You do not work. And I'm emphasizing this so much because it's so important for you to understand that the market is not the problem. You are the problem. You need something basic, something simple, and you can call this super hard. And you can be like, I can't even count to 5. I can count to 2. Shit. Well, don't take this model then. Right out of the box. Do something. But you have to understand and look into yourself and be honest with yourself. Am I really doing everything for this right now? Do you sleep 8 hours a night? What a joke. What a joke. 8 hours a night, right? Do you go out drinking with your friends? Before I came profitable, I didn't hang out. Hung out with my absolute 2 best friends once in a year. Once I hung out with my best friends. How dare you sit there and say that you are not, you're doing whatever it takes. You're doing it all. At some point you have to address yourself and say, hey man, it's time for you to man up. And this is the time. This is the time. I'll make sure to I'll make sure to put the links to Stoic in the description, including my Twitter, where I'm posting more frequently. Um, Hopefully, you gained something out of this. This is the first video out of the 4 video series. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you're having a good backtesting session this weekend and not doing some dumb shit. See you around.